Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the LakersNation.com podcast and the RaptorsNation.com podcast. We're doing a little combined show here to preview Lakers versus Raptors tonight. I'll talk a little bit about that game. We'll also talk a little bit about the mailbag. I'm going to get into that for the Lakers Nation portion of the show to finish things off. But a very special guest from Raptors Nation, it's Luca Rosano. Luca, how are you doing?
Trevor, I'm doing great. A lot better now that the Raptors are seemingly starting to hit a bit of a stride. So, yeah, I'm a lot better than I was last week. That's for sure.
Lakers fans are throwing their hands up, saying, "Of course, the Raptors are hitting their stride right before they're gonna play the Lakers." Luca, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, if you're over watching on Lakers Nation right now, Luca heads up Raptors Nation. You guys can check out youtube.com/RaptorsNation.com. That's one of our sister sites or sister channels. Lakers fans, if you haven't done so yet, do me a favor, go follow that channel. Go hit the subscribe button on their channel. Help us out as we're looking to grow that out. Luca does a phenomenal job over there. Even if you're not a Raptors fan, I guarantee you there's going to be stuff that you're going to like over there at Raptors Nation. Also, RaptorsNation.com, the website, is absolutely fantastic. Luca, you guys have had a little bit of fun here. You've got the big trade so far of the season. Are you happy with it? Are you missing OG Anunoby? Where are you at right now?
I'm not going to lie, Trevor. It was tough to see OG go. He was one of my favorite Raptors, being with the team for 7 seasons, watching him grow as a player. Obviously, the Raptors drafted him. But I absolutely loved the trade, and I am so loving it right now. And I think we're going to look back at that trade and, call it a win-win for both teams, because you look at what OG has been doing with the Knicks. Knicks are undefeated with him at the time of this recording. He's been really making an impact for that team on the defensive end. He's been a seamless fit with Randall and Brunson. But then you look at what the Raptors got back, exactly what they needed. 2 young pieces with tremendous upside that you can now build with Scotty Barnes going into the future. 2 guys who immediately got slated into the starting lineup, who have been making immediate impacts on this team. I mean, RJ had 37 the other day against Golden State. That was the best he's looked in a while. He started red hot. He hit 5 threes in that one. Really just imposing his will in the paint. Warriors had no answers for him. And then you look at Emmanuel Quickly. He had his stand-up game in a win against the Grizzlies. I call him the Raptors' future franchise point guard. He has all the attributes that you want to see in a young point guard. His skill set is unbelievably solid to watch. And he just gives me Tyrese Maxey vibes. Obviously, there's going to be ways to go until he gets to that level. But just the way that he's able to generate offense, hits the 3, really giving this Raptors team a breath of fresh air of a guard, a dynamic guard who can create. So yeah, it's been really good so far, Trevor. The new look Raptors are 3-1, could have been 4-0. It was a very competitive loss against the Kings, but both of these guys have just been seamless fits. And, the future certainly looks a lot brighter today for the Raptors than it did, like I said, last week.
They've been absolutely killing it. It's one of those trades where instantly when it came out, you had a lot of people on either side saying, oh, this team won the trade or that team won the trade. But I think you're right. I think this could be a win-win. And that was my initial gut reaction was, wow, I think this is a win-win for both teams, as rare as that is. And in this day and age, we're so dead set on we have to say which team won. I thought it was a win-win. And so far, it's been great for the Raptors. For the Lakers fans out there that aren't watching a ton of Raptors basketball, now that this trade has happened, and it's only been, about a week since the trade actually went down, what has changed about the Raptors and the way they play basketball now compared to what we saw out of them earlier in the season?
Well, their offense has been a lot better. In the last 15 games, it has been drastically better to when they started the season. But, adding a guy like Barrett and Quickly, just the ball movement has been better. They had 35 assists the other night. The flow has been much better. And, now you got a situation where the Raptors have multiple guys who can handle the basketball. So, we are seeing lineups with the Raptors where they have 2-3 guys who can facilitate, who can play make. Having a guy like RJ now who can create his offense, that was something that was desperately missing with this Raptors team. For as great of a player OG was for the Raptors, he didn't necessarily look for his offense, as he was more of the engine of the Raptors defense. But now you have a guy like RJ. He's constantly trying to get to the rack, being aggressive, trying to get to the free throw line. The Raptors have benefited from that. And then you got Emmanuel Quickly. The Raptors have tremendously benefited from his shooting. This was a Raptors team that
Yeah.
for the longest time they were starting Dennis Schroeder, and I'm sure we're going to talk about him
Yeah,
at
our old
starting
friend.
point guard, and it wasn't working well. But now, because the Raptors have two solid starters in Quickly and Barrett that are nice puzzle pieces to Siakam, Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, Dennis Schroeder comes from off the bench, and the Raptors bench has been so much more better. And we saw it in the win over the Warriors that, Dennis Schroeder now is coming into his own as being that leader of the second unit. He's been playing well alongside guys like Gary Trent Jr., Chris Boucher. So it just added a lot more balance and stabilization to this team, Trevor, that now the Raptors actually look like a much more complete team than they did just a few weeks ago, of having the pieces fit in nicely. And the starters have just gelled very well because now the Raptors have multiple guys who can score and go off for, 20 plus points a night. And, Scotty Barnes, Siakam, RJ, Quickly, even
Mhm.
Schroeder has really been elevating his game since coming from off the bench. So the offense has been a lot better. One area that's kind of taken a step back, obviously losing a guy in OG, has been the defense, but the Raptors' defensive effort against the Warriors in that first half was just great. I mean, they really, really did a good job. So hopefully, for the Raptors' sake, that defensive effort continues, but the offense has just been night and day compared to what it was. And it's going to be interesting to see how this offense looks against the Lakers.
One of the things we'll keep an eye on for tonight's game is the Lakers. Since the in-season tournament win, they've been really struggling with teams that shoot a lot of threes. They last I checked, this was before the Clippers game, they ranked 28th in the NBA since the in-season tournament in 3-point percentage against them. So their opponents were shooting 42% from three on average since the in-season tournament. Obviously, that number will have shifted slightly since the Clippers game, but I look here and the Raptors since the trade, and that's obviously a fairly small sample size. We're talking about 4 games, but the Raptors are shooting 41% from deep since the trade. That right there is going to be a key part of this matchup. Can the Raptors continue to shoot at that high of a rate? Or maybe it doesn't even need to be that high, but if they're 37, 38% from deep, that's going to be, I think, an important part of this matchup. They're not necessarily a high volume 3-point shooting team from what we've seen so far from them, but if they're knocking them down at that level, that could create some really tough issues for the Lakers defense to handle, because that's been a weak point for them so far this season.
Well, it's funny too. The Raptors have been one of the best offensive teams in the league since the trade. So it just goes to show how
Right.
Quickly and Barrett have just uplifted this offense. And the Raptors were one of the worst 3-point shooting teams at the start of the season. And yeah, now maybe they're starting to build a bit of momentum. I wouldn't say they're still not quite there yet in terms of where I would like to see them in terms
Sure.
of shooting the 3 ball, but they're coming off a game against the Warriors where they shot at 45% from 3. That was one of the better 3-point shooting performances they had all season, and they really had, the Warriors just on the ropes with their ability to hit shots early, hit the 3, and it came from a guy like RJ who, like I said, was unconscious from the field. So whenever you have RJ, who it has been a pleasant surprise, I'm not going to lie, who has consistently been hitting the 3 since his time with the Raptors, and then Quickly, I mean, he can just reel off a couple of threes at moment's notice. It's definitely helped this Raptors shooting as a whole.
All right, so another area we're going to need to keep an eye on here when we're looking at the injury report. So the Lakers
Yeah.
last night got some pretty good news on Rui Hachimura. He got upgraded to doubtful. Now, sometimes what happens in that situation is a player gets upgraded to doubtful the day before the game. The day of the game, when the next injury report comes out, that player will be upgraded to questionable, and then they wind up playing. I'm not saying for sure that's what's going to happen with Rui Hachimura. It's still more likely than not that he doesn't play, dealing with that calf strain, but that's a significant step forward for him. Hasn't played in the last few games. LeBron right now is questionable, but LeBron is questionable for every single game, always. So I'm not going to read too much into that. On the other side, though, Jakob Poeltl is going to be out. Now, I didn't see the play, but apparently he stepped on Pascal Siakam's foot and rolled his ankle, and now he's going to be out of action. First of all, how bad of an injury is this? And then how big of an issue is this for the Raptors to not have Poeltl and you're dealing with Anthony Davis?
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought this up. Just absolutely huge loss for the Raptors. Not gonna have Pirtle in this one. I'm thinking he might not even suit up in the game against the Clippers because this is the first night of a back-to-back set for the Raptors, and
Oh,
it looked
rest him
pretty
against
bad.
the Lakers. He can play against the Clippers. That's fine. No problem.
It looked pretty bad though, Trevor. And I was actually surprised he stayed in the game. He did not come out, but initially looking at it, coming down, rolling his ankle on Siakam's foot, it was one of those things where it's like, please get up, please get up. Because obviously a guy of his size, whenever you
Mhm.
have a freak accident like that, it's going to do a lot of damage. But yeah, like I said, he was able to play through the pain, play through it. But this is not surprising to me that he has been ruled out for this. And it's going to be tough for the Raptors to overcome this because they already have a very thin front court. In that trade, going back to the OG Anunoby trade, trading away Precious Achua made their front court depth even more thin. You don't have Jakob Poeltl now. Christian Koloko has been out indefinitely with respiratory issues. We have not seen him yet on the Raptors side. So now you're looking at a Raptors team that, in all likelihood, I don't think they're going to go with a small ball lineup and start Gary Trent Jr. So you're looking at Chris Boucher
Mhm.
starting for the Raptors. He did have a nice game in his last outing, 17 points on a perfect 7 of 7 shooting against the Warriors. But Boucher's not your traditional center. And then that's going to just leave Porter as the Raptors' real backup front court player in this matchup. And he is still trying to get, familiarized with this Raptors team. He's on a two-way deal. He's only played in a few games. Although he's impressed me in his limited action with the Raptors, it's going to be a tough situation because, like you said, Trevor, it's not like they're going up against just anybody. Anthony Davis has an opportunity to absolutely pulverize the Raptors inside because of their lack of front court depth right now.
And that's Jonte Porter, who's the only other center designated player on the roster without Jakob Poeltl, who's playing a ton of minutes right now for the Raptors. That is indeed a big loss. From the Lakers side of things, what do Lakers fans need to be worried about from this Raptors team in terms of the matchup? If Jakob Poeltl is out, and he is out, what should we be watching for? Like, what would success look like for the Raptors? How are they gonna generate offense and defense here?
Yeah, well, I think what's really worked for the Raptors is just their ability to move the ball and get good looks. And you look at some of these recent wins, they've really racked up the assists, 35 assists in that win against the Warriors. And RJ Barrett has really been that guy who has been able to attack the interior. So if he can kind of set the tone and, really attack inside, that will alleviate a lot of the pressure off some other guys who I think are definitely going to have to step up in this matchup. Pascal Siakam historically has always played good, on these West Coast trips. They're going to need a big game from him. And Scotty Barnes, he did a really good job defensively against Stephen Curry, getting that
Mhm.
hard matchup. So I'll be interested to see who he matches up against in this one. And can he get his offense going? Because he actually didn't register a three. And, he had a long streak this season in which he had at least one 3-pointer made. So Scotty, I think, is going to be due for a bounce back game here. And then really the bench. I think, Dennis Schroeder with Gary Trent Jr., those guys are really going to have to do some heavy lifting because if Boucher starts, the Raptors are going to be even thinner with their bench. So they're going to need to be able to space the floor and hit shots. And I think where the Raptors can really, look to exploit the Lakers, again, attacking inside with RJ. And will they be able to continue their good shooting and, get great 3-point production? Can Scotty bounce back from three? Can RJ have another efficient night from three? And then Emmanuel quickly was pretty quiet offensively. He did have 10 assists the other night, but he's capable of being the spark plug. So I think if the Raptors are going to win this game again, they got to get off to a good start as they did against the Warriors. And they're going to have to move the ball well. And they're going to have to hit shots because they're going to be thin going into this game. And it's going to be a grind trying to stop AD inside.
Yeah, quickly already had a pretty good game against the Lakers when he was with the Knicks, and the Knicks beat the Lakers. So he's a guy that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on. But before we move over to your side of things here, what I got to check in on my guy Dennis Schroeder, our old friend. How's he doing? I got to admit I'm terrified because he seemed to relish playing against his former teammate Austin Reeves when Team USA was playing Germany, and he lit up Team USA. And I'm worried that he's going to do the same thing coming off the bench in tonight's game.
It's funny when you invited me on to do this show. That's actually the first thought that popped into my mind. I'm like, this is so going to be a Dennis Schroeder revenge game because that's his character, right? Like you
Yep.
could tell he's going to relish this opportunity to go into LA, play against his former team, and just, try to make them pay in every aspect. But Dennis Schroeder, honestly, there was a point in the season, like it was starting to unravel for him in the worst way possible. Like it's funny. He got off to such a great start with the
Right.
Raptors as a starting point guard. Then you started to see the issues arise where he was being a little bit selfish, looking for his offense over guys like Barnes and Siakam, who the Raptors should have played through a lot more. And then finally, Darko Rajakovic did make the right move. And you could tell there's obviously a close relationship there of bringing Schroeder from off the bench. And since that has happened, I mean, that has just been an amazing move, even before the trade of bringing Schroeder from off the bench, because he has really just adopted this mentality, the leadership role of leading the second unit. And you look at some of the numbers he's put up since coming from off the bench, the assist numbers have been there. Against Memphis, he had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He had 18 against the Kings. He was the reason why the Raptors came back against the Kings, by the way, because of that, him leading the second unit and really doing a good job. So even if he's not going to hit the 3 ball, you guys know, obviously that's not his strong suit. He's been
No.
a good he's been doing a good job of just attacking, making things happen, and just being aggressive towards the rim. And you could just tell he's got a new sense of confidence, newfound energy, and he's really done a good job either leading that second unit or also being integrated in what Darko has been running lately. And that is a smaller backcourt lineup where it's he and Quickly, and they kind of go with the 2 smaller guards.
Mhm.
And that has been a good operation in the minutes that we've seen. So I think Schroeder is going to be obviously a huge X factor in this game, being the Raptors' 6th man and trying to make something work.
Yeah, I mean he's averaging 34.8% from three. I can tell you from the Lakers side, they would take that all day, all day, given some of the 3-point shooters they've seen. I mean, this is like we always joke about the Lakers curse that 3-point shooters, their shooting powers just evaporate whenever they become a Laker. We talk about Mike Muscala and Reggie Bullock and Malik Beasley and players like that. Schroeder 32.9% for the Lakers last season, 2 percentage points higher with the Raptors this season, shooting 45% from the field. Was just 41.5% for the Lakers the season before. Assists are up 14.5 points per game. Although, again, his role has shifted quite a bit. So some of these numbers were as a starter. Some of these are coming in, coming off the bench. But he's a guy, too. Like you said, the Raptors now have a lot of guys that you have to worry about. Hey, could this guy have a game tonight? Could that guy have a game? There's so many different guys that can get going, and you never know on any given night who it's going to be. Luca, why don't we turn this thing around, though? What do you need to know from the Raptors side of things about my Lakers?
Yeah, that's gonna be that's a very interesting question. I mean, first of all, who do you think's gonna get the who do you think's gonna get the assignment of Scotty Barnes? Who do you think Scotty is gonna go up against and try to
So,
slow down?
when I'm looking at this, I think that Pirtle being out kind of throws a wrench into everything, right? Because you're gonna put, yeah, you wind up putting Boucher or something on Anthony Davis, but the reality is a lot of guys are gonna have to help. They're gonna need to help. So I would have to imagine that that Siakam is gonna match up with LeBron defensively, and then that leaves you with Scotty Barnes, and you can put him on the next biggest threat, assuming Austin Reeves is still in the starting lineup. It almost wouldn't shock me if, because the Lakers have been starting with guys like Cam Reddish, guys like Taurean Prince is a good 3-point shooter, but that's not a bad guy to just stash RJ Barrett on. Quickly can actually defend Cam Reddish just fine because Cam offensively, it's an adventure. So it almost wouldn't surprise me if the Raptors just use Scotty Barnes to use his length to put a bunch of pressure on Austin Reeves handling the basketball and do
Yeah.
what they can in order to prevent him from getting them into early offense. With the only caveat being they could also use him as a helper if you would rather have Barnes as your helper off of a guy like Cam Reddish, then you could go the other way there and you could just kind of ignore Cam Reddish on the offensive end and have Barnes be your secondary guy that comes over to help out, or Siakam coming over to help out if you want to go with Barnes on LeBron. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Raptors match up because I think there's a lot of different ways that they could really play this.
Yeah, and Scotty Barnes, he helped effectively shut down Curry. I mean, I've never seen
Yeah.
Stephen Curry have that bad of a game in his career. He did not hit a three. He was 0 of 9. So, you
9
know,
points for Steph
like
in
when
the
has
game,
that happened, right?
right?
So, Scotty Barnes, he's just been a nightmare defensively, even though his offense has been kind of slow. That's something that I'm really interested to see. And I guess I'm curious, how is the Lakers paint protection? Because that's an area where the Raptors have absolutely feasted, and that is points in the paint. And that was the reason why they got out and absolutely bullied the Warriors to start, because they just got whatever they want in the paint, especially from the paint and also in the mid range. Because the Warriors were the worst team, I believe, guarding the mid range, entering the matchup from the other night. So
Mm-hmm.
mid range, but especially that painted area. Obviously, you got RJ now, who just elevates the Raptors' ability to attack. But there's another guy. He's been in a lot of trade rumors lately, but Pascal Siakam, he does mostly all of his damage inside the paint, especially when his three ball wasn't connecting.
So the Lakers on the season ranked 10th in opponents' points in the paint. And I think the big question is, how are you generating those points in the paint? That's really what the key is here, because there's a couple of different ways that you can generate points in the paint, particularly if you're getting into fast break situations. If the Raptors defense is able to turn the Lakers over, if they're able to get out and run in transition, they're able to get misses from the Lakers, then they're able to rebound and go. That's how you can get points in the paint in transition. And you're going to have, obviously, transition basketball is much more valuable than half court basketball anyway, but you're going to be especially effective if you can beat Anthony Davis down the floor. That's what we're seeing a lot of teams do when Anthony Davis is behind in a play. If he goes for an offensive rebound and he doesn't get it, something like that happens. He goes to shoot a layup and the momentum carries him off the floor. Teams are racing down the court as quick as they can to enjoy the experience of going at the Lakers defense without Anthony Davis in the paint. So that's how you can generate points in the paint, is attacking the Lakers defense before they get set. When they're set in the half court, that's a lot different. Now, one of the things the Lakers have been doing when Anthony Davis is not in is now they've turned to Christian Wood as the backup. It was Jackson Hayes. That did not work out at all. So now we're starting to see Christian Wood back into the mix. Should Rui Hachimura play in this one? Maybe that shifts around some of the minutes, some of the rotations and things of that nature. But Christian Wood has been better than I would have thought he would be in terms of his rebounding, in terms of his rim protection, but it's still a pretty big drop off when Anthony Davis is not on the floor. So that's where I could see the Raptors really being successful there. The other area, and this would be more of a Jakob Poeltl thing if he was in this game, is when you can get quick guards to penetrate from the perimeter and force Anthony Davis to come over. You see teams where all they really have to do is get the ball up over the pterodactyl wings that Anthony Davis calls arms. You get that ball up on the rim, and it's a tip dunk for whoever your center is, because the Lakers do a terrible job of reading that and then boxing out that big. So that's another way you can get points in the paint. But the best way for the best path to success to get points in the paint against this Lakers team, it's to attack when Anthony Davis is out of the play and beat him down the floor.
Yeah, no, that's really well said. And I think another interesting key in this one's going to be the 3-point shooting. As I'm looking at it here too, the Raptors are 24th, the Lakers are 25th. So these are
Yeah.
two teams that haven't particularly shot the ball well from deep. And I know from the Raptors side of things, when they get that three ball to fall early, it just opens everything up. But when it's a grind for them to hit threes, it's effectively, seemingly a grind for them to score. So I think this is a matchup that could come down to that three ball discrepancy, because in the Raptors matchup over the Kings, that's the reason why they lost that game, was because the Kings put up more shots and they hit more threes. And also, are the Raptors going to be able to get the benefit of the whistle and get to the foul line? I think the Raptors have done a better job of getting to the free throw line, which is something that they haven't been able to do at the beginning of the season. So that's another area to see, if they can continue to generate looks at the line. And that's obviously going to be primarily, guys like RJ and Siakam attacking. And then the last thing I'll say to this, Trevor, is I don't know how the hell the Raptors are going to stop Poeltl. Or sorry, AD without Poeltl being in there, because really, it's going to be tough. They're going to have to throw some unique looks at AD to try to slow him down, but the Raptors have had tough times this season guarding a guy of AD's stature. Embiid's gone off a lot of times playing against the Raptors, and I
Sure.
just think AD's going to absolutely have a heyday if the Raptors don't game plan for him properly.
So first of all, the free throw attempt situation, yeah, the Toronto Raptors right now are on this over the last 4 games. Okay, because I kind of consider it like a new, not a new team, but it's a big difference. Over the last 4 games, the Toronto Raptors, since they made the trade, ranked fifth in the NBA in free throw attempts. The Lakers over that span ranked 14th. They've been not over the last month or so. They've not been as good at getting to the free throw line as they were, say, last season. So I do think that's going to be a key factor here. It's the free throw attempts. As far as Anthony Davis goes, I think it's kind of funny because it was actually playing against the Raptors last season. Obviously, different coach, but playing against the Raptors last season, Anthony Davis, I want to say he had like 9 points. It was late in the season. Everybody saw the way the Raptors defense kind of took Anthony Davis out of the game and forced other players to beat them. And the Lakers won that game. But I remember that game. That game sticks out like a sore thumb because I went, oh no, they have to solve this. Like if the Lakers don't solve this, everyone just saw this. Everyone saw what the Raptors did here, how they fronted AD, how they prevented that pass from getting there. Everybody's going to do it from now on. And that's exactly what happened. And that's why Anthony Davis suddenly got that narrative that, he would have a good game and then a game where he disappears, and a good game, then a game where he disappears. Teams were focusing on stopping him and trying to force other players to beat them. I think that's what the Raptors are going to do here. They're going to, if they're going to have to front and then send the double to Anthony Davis, they're going to do that. They're going to do everything they can to keep him from catching the ball in the post. And it's going to be on the Lakers to get creative and figure out ways to feed Anthony Davis the ball in scoring positions. And when the Raptors really do commit, if they're going to set a double at AD, it's going to be important that AD moves the ball and then the other Lakers do stuff. There's been way too many games during this rough stretch since the in-season tournament happened where it's been LeBron, it's been Anthony Davis, it's been maybe one other guy, and then everybody else is just kind of out there doing cardio and not really making an impact on the game. Against the Clippers and the Lakers last outing, everybody stepped up. Everybody contributed. Everybody that played contributed in some way. That's what the Lakers are going to need here, because I think the Raptors are going to throw everything at stopping AD, and they're going to hope that nobody else really steps up and gets going if they focus on stopping the ball from getting to AD. You can't prevent everything, but they're hoping if they can prevent the ball from getting to AD, that's going to result in Cam Reddish shooting threes, Jared Vanderbilt shooting. Like those are the guys they want to force into shots. And so how effective they are at forcing those types of situations, that I think is going to be critical in this one.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And I think, we're going to see a lot from Darko in this one because, obviously going back to last season, I remember that game that was, head coached by Nick Nurse, and he's one of the best coaches in the league when it comes to just neutralizing the other team's best player. And if he's going to lose, he's going to make the other guys beat him. And in this one, Darko, is he going to send the double? Who's he going to have as the primary defender against AD? Because I'll tell you this, over the last couple of games, the Raptors have had a tough time, especially on the offensive glass. They got the other game against the Warriors had more offensive rebounds than the Raptors. And then against the Kings, Domantas Sabonis absolutely feasted inside. And this is why I'm scared of AD, because Sabonis had multiple offensive rebounds, generating second chance opportunities in that first quarter, in that first half, which is why the Kings got off to that great start. And Sabonis had 15 boards, 11 assists, 24 points. So he was just abusing the Raptors, and they had no answer for him on the glass. So now you're taking away, a huge piece in Pirtle, their best guy on the glass, and it's going to be a grind, especially trying to, get those boards over AD and try to not allow the Lakers to have all these second chance opportunities and all these offensive rebounds. So I think that's an area where the Lakers can really impose their will. But again, we'll see how Darko plays this, not having Jakob Poeltl for the first time this season. And it's funny because just the Raptors' luck, Trevor, they have actually been one of the luckiest teams, I guess, this season of avoiding the injury bug. They only had one other occasion where they were missing a starter, and that was OG, who cut his finger. So it wasn't even like a legit injury. He cut his finger doing house chores. This is actually an injury that the Raptors are going to have to face, and it's probably going to hurt him in a big way.
Well, if it helps ease your concern at all. Now, there have been some games where this has not been true, but the Lakers right now are dead last in the NBA on the season in second chance points scored. They tend to not get second chance. Now, part of that is they made the conscious decision that they weren't going to pursue offensive rebounds. Instead, they were going to focus on getting back to try to prevent transition scoring opportunities for their opponents, and we've seen that for much of the season. But they have had some games. In fact, I'm blanking on the team they were playing, but there was a game where they just completely shifted their strategy and sent everybody at the offensive glass and dominated. I wonder with Pirtle out if that's what they do here, if they do send extra guys at the offensive glass and just say, hey, we're going to go all out for the offensive board. If we don't get it, that's going to put us in a tough spot for our transition defense, but we're going to take that gamble. That's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on in this game, and I'm glad you pointed that out because the Lakers, again, have not been good there on the season, but without Pirtle in there, there's definitely some opportunities for them to do some damage on that offensive glass. Looking right now, and this is, again, we're recording this Monday evening, but right now, the Lakers are a 5.5-point favorite. I'm nervous about that. I mean, the Raptors just beat the Warriors. They've been really good since the trade. I'm always going to be nervous with the line. That's just the way it is. But from the Lakers side of things, I'm worried that that's a little bit high. How do you feel about that line, even with Pirtle out?
Well, I just want to throw this into the equation. I don't know if this makes you feel any better. I know this is not spread. This is just straight up. But LeBron is 42-16 all time against the Raptors, going back to the LeBronto days. So that is a compelling number right there. And he has put up some nice numbers against the Raptors: 27.2 points, 7.6 assists, and 7.2 rebounds. So this could be a LeBron AD classic game. 5.5. That is one of those numbers that, it's one of those things that I don't know, you never feel comfortable taking when you're on the minus side of it. Obviously, I'm going plus 5.5. I think the Raptors are going to make this thing interesting, and they just have all the momentum right now. They're feeling good, playing good. You guys look good. So, and the Lakers just coming off an emotional, high victory against the Clippers. They needed that one because I know you guys were in a rut prior to that.
It's been bad. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a very, very tight game. I would not be surprised if this thing goes down to the wire.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think this thing is going to be very, very close, and that's why I'm not super comfortable with that 5.5 number. At least just kind of being out that the Lakers are that heavy of a favorite. I know Pirtle's not there, but there's so many wings on the Raptors that can do so many things. So this is going to be, I think, a really exciting one. Luka, thank you so much for coming on here. I'm glad we got to do this. If you're joining over on the Raptors Nation YouTube channel, again, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Over on the Lakers Nation side, go check out Raptors Nation. Give them a follow as well. But Luka does absolutely phenomenal work. And again, man, thank you so much for coming on here, and best of luck in tonight's game.
Thank you, Trevor, and best of luck, Lakers Nation. We'll see who wins this one.
And guys, go follow Luka over on X as well, at Luka Rosano 3. Does some great stuff there as well if you guys want to find him personally.